Welcome to Hacktics and Telemetry, a Rapid7 produced podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Douglas McKee, and I'm joined by the one and only CryptoCat. We actually have a very special episode 8 for you today. We had an opportunity to get a one-on-one interview with Brutecat literally hours after he dropped his latest find about Google hacking, winning over $500,000 in bug bounties.
It's probably going to be $1 million by the time this episode drops.
That's true. Yeah, we're probably looking at 7 figures. So we are super excited to bring you that interview here. We are not going to do the Situation Room and Mitigation Minute this time. We're going to jump right in and show you that valuable conversation. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave us comments down below. And of course, in the show notes, we will have a link to all of Brutecat's research. Without any further ado, let's jump over to the war room. All right, welcome to the war room. And this is our guest segment for the podcast, and we have a very special guest this time. We have Brutecat joining us. This guy is what I consider a local legend in the hacker community. Maybe not local. He's in Singapore. I am not, so maybe local is the wrong word there.
International legend.
Actual legend. There we go. We'll go with that. He has recently accrued over $500,000 in bounties from Google, and we are super honored to have him on the podcast today. I'm really interested to learn more about your work. But Brutecat, if someone is living under a rock and has never heard about you, why don't you give us a first, 30-second to a minute introduction of who you are and your work, and then we'll dig into some of it.
Thanks for having me in the podcast. It's an honor to be here. So I've been researching Google for maybe the past 1-2 years, and I've been my approach to Google is a bit different than most people. So Google's a very special company in a lot of their API and structures is all very structured. So I try to go deep and learn about the infrastructure and then apply that and try to scale finding vulnerabilities. So it's a bit of a unique approach, and that allows me to find bugs that otherwise people wouldn't find.
So are you suggesting that just the nature of the way Google architects its products gives you an edge in finding bugs?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because see, most of Google is actually security by obscurity. It doesn't feel that way. It feels very intimidating.
That's a big accusation for such a big company, but I like it. Let's go. Explain that a little bit more.
Okay, I mean, so that's my experience, because people see the Google search box or whatever, they try to hack it a bit and they don't get much success and they kind of give up, right? That's most people. But the reason why is because Google's stuff is super complicated. They use protobufs everywhere. It's obfuscated everywhere. It's very hard to understand what you're looking at. And you kind of have to dig super deep to get a baseline understanding of how everything works. How does auth work? How do I hit APIs and stuff like that, especially for server side. So it's not easy at all. I spent probably months looking at Google's API, learning how everything works before I even got the first bounty. I was never trying to find bugs in the first place. It just happened to be that I was finding bugs after I figured out this whole infra and everything.
Do you think some of that is related to just how long Google's been around, right? It's not by any means a new company. Google's been a foundation in the technology cybersecurity industry for such time. So do you think some of the complexity that you're talking about is simply tech debt, or trying to stay on top of the latest and greatest from Google?
Okay, so it's a bit more nuanced than that. So what I would say is that Google has been so there's something called in Google. There's something called Google 3. It's the third generation of Google's infrastructure or whatever. So they've been through they've seen everything, and they've rebuilt their whole infrastructure many times. So the way they do it is they have it super consistent, and in a way, this is actually good because it's not all over the place. If you think about a random company, you would see they're hosting one different architecture, they're completely different thing. It's all over the place. But Google, it's insanely structured. So if they have a vulnerability in one thing, they can easily patch it across everything. It's not so in a way it's good, right? I'm not saying it's bad. And as a developer, it's probably awesome to code for Google, but it also helps you if you go deep and understand this infrastructure and spend a lot of time digging deep and understanding all the small things about it and all these little tricks to leak stuff. You can then scale this across the entire Google, right? So for example, one major thing I found a while back was so Google uses protobufs, right? And if for those who don't know what protobufs are, it's this encoding format. Think of JSON. JSON, you have to specify name is John, age is 23. You have to keep sending this to the server, right? And it's wasted bandwidth, right? Why do I have to keep sending name if the server already knows it's expecting name? So both sides, the client and the server, they have schemas, right? And they already know that they're expecting name and age there. So essentially, protobuf it just compacts this, and it just sends the John and the age in a super compact way. So because of this, everything they use protobufs literally everywhere. Every API has this, and all the API definitions are structured this way. If you can find a way to leak this protobuf definition, now you suddenly have the protobuf definition for everything in Google. So one of the early things I figured out was, for whatever reason, for certain Google API endpoints, if they accept this JSON plus protobuf content type, right, you can just supply an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And if any of those parameters are not integers, they'll start leaking out what the real integer is. So it'll tell you what the real parameter is.
It's a bit like GraphQL with that. GraphQL sometimes suggests if you have a typo in a mutation, I think it sometimes gives that correction. Seems like
So it's okay. So it's essentially let's just tell you what the real parameter is. So I wrote this whole tool basically to fuzz this, or for any API you can just enter the link there and it'll start brooding every single thing and give you the full protobuf definition. But so this only worked for those APIs that had this content type enabled. Not all of them had it enabled, but it was still a vast majority of them. And this is what I used actually to find one of my bugs. It was a YouTube bug. So I was going through YouTube, and YouTube was my passion. I love finding bugs here.
Brutecat, let me. So is this the first bug that you reported to Google?
No, it's the second one. It was a $20,000 bounty. Yeah.
Okay. 1 second. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen just so anybody
so our readers can follow, or listeners can follow along here. He's bringing it up. There we go.
Yeah, just bear with me a second just so I can see you guys as well.
I think that's really interesting what you were saying while Jonah brings it up there. I think it's the same structure that makes it good for developers at Google and allows them to scale and allows them to be consistent, is you can take an advantage of as a hacker because you can guarantee certain things across that entire infrastructure. And I think that's a really interesting underlying point that you're talking about, where I swear sometimes when we talk about the defensive nature of cybersecurity, it's you almost can't ever do anything right. So Google is basically trying to do software development, or is doing software development probably by the book. And in this case, the book's hurting them because when you find one bug, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you find one bug in that API, and it scales across the whole company, and then allows you to get further with it, which I just think is a really interesting concept.
Brutecat, so this isn't the right one, right? Is this wasn't your first one?
No, it's a different one.
Right,
the $20,000 one.
This one.
Yeah. Okay. What I was saying is so I wouldn't call them bugs, the protobuf definition leak thing. It's just these. Every company will have these small debug messages or error messages leaked out, and you can kind of piece together. It's just the fact that Google has them on their API infrastructure that you can now use this to leak information about every other API, and it kind of turns a black box Google into more of a white box, because now I know exactly what this API wants. Otherwise, I'm just stuck with this black box, whatever I can see from JavaScript or whatever, and most of the time there would be parameters that you can't find. So actually, in this article, right, I was looking through YouTube's YouTube Studio, right? And if you're familiar with YouTube Studio, they have a bunch of tabs and stuff. So I was clicking through all the tabs, and I saw one of the tabs let you fetch information about any channel or whatever. So, but I wanted to see what all I could fetch with this. So it had a bunch of masks that I could basically supply in this request. And if you scroll down a bit, maybe I can show you what that looks like. Oh yeah, on the screen right now. If you go up a bit, this was the tool I was mentioning, where I could basically put this and start leaking all the different types of the API, right? So this is called RectorProto. It's open source, so you can check it out.
Okay.
So if you scroll down a bit, right, I can show you the. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I could link this for any YouTube endpoint or whatever. So this, for example, the browse request. If you search anything on YouTube, this is the request that happens. You would see all these parameters debug level. You wouldn't have found this any other way. There's no way to find it. So I was looking at YouTube Studio specifically because I was looking more attack surface in terms of YouTube, and I happened to see that the endpoint for fetching channels, it was get creator channels, I believe, and it basically had this weird parameter include suspended true. So you would think that include suspended means it's gonna resolve banned channels or something, but no, it wasn't. For some reason, when I had include suspended true, it started adding this extra thing in the response. It was some content owner association, right? And it was super weird. Okay, I think if you scroll down more, you can see the content owner association. Yeah, I think it's there. It's above.
Okay.
Okay. So content owners, I basically look more into that. A content owner on YouTube is this. It's this god-like tool. So they give this tool to a few companies, and anyone who has this tool can ban you're gonna strike any channel, any video, you claim any video. So it's a super dangerous tool to give out. It's only for big media companies, I guess, Warner Brothers. These type of big companies, they all have this tool. And the interesting thing about this tool, if you think about it, I'm a media company and I want to be able to talk to other media companies and stuff. So they have this mechanism where you can set a notification email, and then if I want to like strike some other video, I don't like this thing, I can like email that creator, and it actually tells you the email. And it's not necessarily a bug or anything because they set this email. It's meant for this purpose, right? But the funny thing was, so I looked at how like YouTube's like their copyright match tool works. So this is for every creator. Every creator has this copyright match tool, or every partner at least, and it kind of tells you like of other like videos that have like copied your video or something like that. So you can't actually like claim them or claim the video or strike the video, but or you can just look at that. And the way it works is the same as content ID. So I was kind of looking at like, is there like some sort of content owner in like the back end here? So I looked through the API, and it turns out, yes, there is. So that content owner association for those partners is actually like this fake like IVP, they call it, content owner. It's an internal like type. They just create like some account just for this, right? And that was super weird. So then I was wondering, like, what is this conflict notification email set to for those internal accounts? And it turns out that, like, if you query the notification email for those, it leaks the channel's actual email. So this whole chain basically allowed you to leak the email of like any YouTube partner, essentially.
Wow, nice. And so that was your first one. Your second one, I take it, was this one, the 10,000, and this was to do with blocking users, right?
Yeah, so this was probably like the first bug I found. I was basically, when I started into Google stuff, it was because I was looking to like OSINT work. I was figuring out, like, it was super interesting to me how you could find information about any guy using OSINT tools. Like I can, and everybody has a Google account, right? So I was trying to see, is there a way I can leak information about Google accounts? So like the best resource for this was actually like the People API. There's like this API that Google has, and you can look up end user in that. So that was super interesting. I kept looking in that aspect, and I saw a lot of stuff there. But and one of the things I noticed was you can like block someone on like, and it was super weird to me because if you can block somebody, right, if you think about it, how does that work on like YouTube, right? So it turns out if you go to like live chat and you block someone on that live chat, it resolves in your Google's block list. So that means it's like resolving to a Google account, which means that it's probably leaking the Google account identifier somewhere. So I tested it out, and when I blocked the guy, I saw the block list had like the Gaia ID in it, and that was pretty funny because I knew this Gaia ID can be converted to an email. Like there's been so many weird apps that Google has, like because think about this Gaia ID. It's actually called a focus obfuscated Gaia ID. So there's the unobfuscated one, the raw Gaia ID, and the focus obfuscated one. This is actually the obfuscated one. So since it's called obfuscated, many teams think that like they can leak it out or whatever. It's fine to leak it, but the truth is that like it's very often it's possible to convert this obfuscated one to an email. So in this case, I looked through and I found this like Pixel Recorder app. It's like some super old like app they have for Android, and they had some cloud feature for this where you can like save a recording or like share a recording. So I was able to then use the Gaia ID I got from this and share it. Basically, like share a recording with someone else, and it took in a Gaia ID, and it would like share the recording with the other person, and it would leak the email once I then resolved the list of users who it's shared with. But I had like a huge problem because while I could do this, in the end, the user got notified that someone sent you like a recording, right? So that kind of like kills the whole attack. I mean, like, okay, sure, you can do this, but if the guy is notified, the impact drops a lot. So I wanted to try to find like a way I could like remove this notification. So I was thinking about it. Like, if you think about it, like any sort of email you receive, right? There's like the subject and there's a body, right? So there's the subject of this email is like, oh, someone has shared a recording with you, or the recording, like whatever the title is, and then yeah, so it contains a title on the subject. So what if my title was like super long? Then the email wouldn't be able to send, right? So I basically set like a 1.2 million character title on my recording, shared that recording, and then there was no notification sent to the victim. So I completely got rid of that whole issue. Yeah. So then I could convert any arbitrary like YouTube user and get their email address.
That's awesome. Yeah, really creative solution. I have a quick question on that one, Brute. Now, if I found that bug and it sent an email, I would just still be like, report. Did you report it and then escalate it and like update the report? Or did you find it and you're like, no, this isn't good enough. I need to find a way to stop that email being sent before I report it?
So, okay, so I didn't actually initially intend to report like anything, and to be honest, like I didn't even think this was like reportable, or I didn't even think of that whole concept. I was just doing this for like finding OSINT techniques or whatever, some way I could like do this in that angle. So then I later realized, I thought about like, this is surely a bug. There's no way this was intended. So then I thought about, okay, now let's like report this. So initially I was just thinking the OSINT angle purely because of that. And that's why I wanted to stop the recording. It's not about like, like my bounty is going to be reduced or something. I didn't even think of it that way. So it then happened to get a bounty, and I think it also got like some like attention in media and stuff. So yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point too. I want to double click on the OSINT thing for a second, because I do think that's like super valuable. from your perspective, what is the value for our listeners of leaking an email from an OSN perspective that's unintended to be leaked? I just want to pull on that just for a second.
So, okay, an email address is basically your whole identity, right? And there's many, if you think about it, there's so many endpoints and stuff in different services where you can just provide an email and start leaking a bunch of stuff. And in fact, there's many tools like osint.industries, right? If you could just enter an email there, you can see this guy's like whole life. You can see all his Google Maps reviews, all the different accounts he's had and all the profiles there. And maybe some of them you probably don't want like public. And another like bad thing is like data leaks. If you think about them, they're all tied to an email address. If I search your email, I can start finding like your leaked passwords or like sealer logs. This kind of stuff is all tied to your email address. So email is basically your core identity. If that's leaked, it's kind of like everything about you is leaked. So in another angle is like a lot of companies, the email address is okay. If you think about it this way, there's all like rare like YouTube channels or maybe like YouTube channels that if they get hijacked, it would be problematic. Think of like big creators and stuff like that. So, and many people have their like channel email, like maybe it's like some expired like mail.com email, right? For mail.com emails, you can have a Google account on a mail.com email. And mail.com is weird, or Yahoo even, because if you don't use your inbox for too long, it expires, and then somebody else could just register that. Or think of like an unclaimed domain. Like so many companies, they like register a domain and they have everything on a domain, and then they forget to renew the domain. And then some other guy comes and claims the domain. Now you can just pass a reset. So in that angle, like email addresses are quite dangerous, right? To get leaked out, especially for like any arbitrary user like that. Like it's super easy to scrape. Like it's like an endpoint that's like low traffic. Anyone can just go to this and start scraping this, and Google wouldn't even notice it because it's part of the normal traffic. You're just using the endpoint as it's intended, right? It just happens to be that they didn't think of it in this angle, right?
Yeah, it's not a bug, it's a feature type thing. And I think that's such a misunderstood concept when it comes to the value of email addresses. I think sometimes like we just throw them around like it's no big deal because I can go get another one. But as you're saying, like an email address is kind of like your primary key to your cybersecurity life in some fashion. And we need to remember to protect it from that standpoint. So I just think that's a really interesting point. But let's keep digging into some of your other amazing findings here.
All right. Another super quick one then for this one, Brute, before we move on to your recent Stub Zero. This was brute forcing phone numbers, right? Using the IPv6 address rotation.
This was a super interesting one. Like this one, so I was just playing around with like going to different Google sites with my JavaScript turned off. And I was seeing how they like, if there's any Google sites that still worked. If you think about it, like everyone has JavaScript nowadays. But for whatever reason, this the forget password flow like didn't work, but the forget username flow did work. So you could forget username. It's super interesting. It takes in a full name, like your Google account's full name, and it takes your phone number and checks, is this like a valid pair? Like, does the guy who has this name have this phone number? If it does, then it allows you to send a code to your phone number or whatever, and it'll tell you like all the emails that are tied to it. Okay, so that is how it works. But if you think about it, that can be probably abused, right? So and if it worked without JavaScript, there's something in Google called BotGuard. So this is like their solution to prevent scraping. BotGuard it's like a proof of work. The concept of it is it's like a super complex like thing, and you have to reverse engineer it. And by the time you finish like reverse engineering this whole JavaScript, it's already, the challenge has changed. So you can't do that. It's not feasible. I mean, maybe now it is with AI. Maybe you can use AI to find it, but that was at least a concept for the longest time. And yeah, it's also a proof of work. So it requires like compute to be able to do it. So so that was the whole flow. But for whatever reason, this one didn't require JavaScript. If they don't have JavaScript, they can't like compute stuff on your browser. So I was thinking, how are they protecting against you scraping this? So at first I was thinking, okay, maybe I could just use proxies, but like, okay, sure, I could use proxies, but proxies are expensive, and there's probably a better way. So there's like this technique, right? It's called like, you can use IPv6 addresses. So they're in IPv4. Okay, people who block by IP address, they don't think of IPv6 most of the time. They just think of IPv4. IPv4 IPs are very expensive. So
we see that all the time in penetration testing and stuff. And we teach that in the SAN 660 class about the value of an IPv6 address and how people don't realize how critical it is and how you can use it to bypass a lot of security protection. So anyway, this is super cool to me.
Yeah, exactly. So like, the IPv6, you can easily get like a /64 range or whatever, and it's a super big range. You have like millions of IP addresses. So now if I can send a request with like a different IP address each time, right? What are you going to do about it? So the Google didn't even think of this. So this whole endpoint just completely like it bypassed all the like rate limits they had. So I was like getting ready to like report it. I had like everything done, and I could brute force like anyone's phone number, and then suddenly it just stops working. So I was like screwed here. I was like, because they said some sort of like mitigation. It turns out like, okay, so while my IP address, I had an IPv6 range, but the way they blocked it was they blocked like data center IPs, right, from using this thing at all. And I could only get ranges from like a data center. I'm sure it's possible to get a residential range, but yeah, that was kind of how they blocked it at first. But then I thought about it, like, okay, I was going through the JavaScript flow, so not the non-JavaScript one, the with JavaScript one. And I saw how they was applying the bot guard tokens, like BG token equals to whatever, right? So then I just like, what if I just like put that in this no JavaScript like request? And for whatever reason, like you just have to have one bot guard token and it just worked infinitely. Like you could have infinite requests with a single bot guard token. So that was so dumb. And on top of that, like, okay, so there's a few problems here. So yeah, sure, I could get this, but how am I supposed to get your full name? Because remember, this attack, it works based on your full name. Yeah, and also like if I'm gonna brute force your phone number, I need to know which country it's from because there's so many different country codes. So there's something super interesting. If you look at the password reset form of Google, if you enter like an email, right, it shows you this hint, right? I'm sure you've seen it before. It shows, but the thing about this hint, right? There's certain spaces or like brackets, and those spaces and brackets, the different combinations of them actually tell you which country it's from. So you can reverse engineer the country from this. It uses something called live phone number. It's like this library from Google, and you can map it back. So now I knew which country your phone number was from. And okay, but then there was the other problem. How am I gonna get your display name, right? Because I need this display name for this attack. See, the problem was for the longest time, display names are super easy to get. Like People API I mentioned earlier, you can just query any user and get the name. But I think around like April 2024, they basically changed this whole thing. So they changed their internal like People API service, and they restricted it so only internal jobs can query names. So this like wiped out like most of the ways you could get names. So I had to search like a lot to find this, and eventually I figured out like, oh, if you create like a Looker Studio report, it's just some random Google service, and you share that with somebody, then you go on the homepage, it leaks like a full name on the homepage. So now I had like the full attack basically, and
so you share it with them. Does it require any interaction from them, or is it just the act of sharing?
No. So actually,
no
a good point there. So okay, the reason why this works, if you think about it, so Google has this understanding where like file owners, like anyone, if you're a file owner, your name is like shown or whatever. Like if I own a file shared with you, you can see my name. That's an understood concept. Okay, so but the thing is, for Google Drive, if I try to share ownership of a file, it's going to ask me for permission first to accept the ownership. Like you can't just share ownership. But for whatever reason, this Looker Studio, or they call it Data Studio now, I think, you could share a report with anybody and it's just auto accepted. Like they can't like deny it. So, and because they still had the same concept where you could like show the full name of the owner of the file, it leaked it here. So that was kind of the way around it. Yeah. So now I had the full chain. I could enter any person's email and I could have their full phone number, like unredacted. And the insane impact of this, if you think about it, is like if you know about SIM swapping, right? It's super easy to just call your phone carrier or whatever, act like you say I want to like swap my number to like a new SIM card, and then now I have like this is like a super common way people have gone to like crypto accounts or this kind of thing. Like, and phone numbers are super insecure, and the fact that there's so much SMS based two-factor authentication. I mean, mostly nowadays, like I think people are slowly moving away from it to like TOTP or security keys, but like there's still so many accounts that you can just reset based on like a phone code. So and the hardest part of a SIM swap attack is just getting the phone number in the first place. So essentially this would allow you to do that. And phone numbers, you can also do many OSINT tricks in that and figure out like their other identities and stuff like that. Phone number is usually a private thing. So yeah, this was pretty high impact in my opinion.
What about the time required here? Is this because there's like more phone numbers, or phone numbers because Singapore's super short here? Is there like less phone numbers than? I mean, I guess that would make sense.
Yeah, less digits. So like Singapore is like 8 digits, right? For US, there's like +1 and a bunch of the area code, like a bunch of stuff. I mean, there's optimizations that I did to like reduce this, but yeah, I got it down as much as possible. And granted, like I was just running this in like a consumer like specs or whatever. Like I'm sure if you have like a really good, if you're able to do way more requests per second, if you have like a lot of network like bandwidth and stuff, you can achieve like even faster booting speeds. You can probably get it like in 5 minutes or even maybe 1 minute. It just depends on your compute, right? I was just using my computer or whatever. That was the main thing. And actually, another thing you could do. So many services, right? They like, for example, PayPal. It's very funny because if you go to PayPal and you try to reset someone's email, it'll show like it only has like 4 digits blanked out. Like it shows everything else. Yeah. So you only have to find 4 digits. And it's also funny because if you think about it, if you go through enough services and reset like and show like the phone number hint for enough services, you can probably like piece together full phone number from that.
Yeah,
like,
true.
I don't think anyone considers that, but yeah, it's pretty funny because so even by that it's dumb. I don't know why people do that. It in my opinion, it shouldn't show like anything at all. But yeah, so you can kind of abuse that fact, and it makes the brooding like much faster. Like a PayPal probably be like in like 0.5 seconds, right? Because it's only four digits that you have to brute.
Very nice, very nice. Now, I think, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, you released this blog, which I haven't looked at yet. I opened it earlier and I literally couldn't find the scroll bar on it. I was like, this is, I need a magnifying glass to find this. So before we try and I haven't read it, so you're going to need to give me the TLDR. But Doug, do you have any questions before Brutecat tells us a bit about his latest, or not his latest, the second to latest Google bug? Oh, actually, I've got a question, Brute. All of these bugs are Google. Have you ever submitted a report to any other like platform or target?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I've submitted bugs like Microsoft, for example, like a lot of companies. It's just I don't write about them. I love writing about Google ones, so I tend to have a lot of Google ones. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting too. Once you start developing like an expertise in one area, a lot of times as a hacker, you like dive deep into that. And if you've got a really good understanding at this point of the Google ecosystem, it makes a lot of sense for you to work in that. I do have
I met Brutecat, I think it's probably a year ago now in Singapore, and what was it, like 4 or 5 hours of Brutecat, just a conversation just like this, just giving me like all this stuff about Google, and I'm like, oh man, it's gonna take me a long time to absorb any of this. Like,
was your head spinning by the end of the conversation?
Yeah.
I tend to go on forever. Like I can go on forever about Google. There's so much about their infrastructure. It's so unique, and yeah, like there's so much stuff you can say. But yeah, so this was like my newest work. So it was like remote code execution in Google Cloud Production. So this actually there's two different bugs. So the first bug I found this like weird API, like Cloud CRM IP frontend PA.GoogleAPIs.com. It's just one of the many APIs I was fuzzing, right? And for some of the endpoints, it was returning like status code 200. So I have this whole like AI system. So I'll talk more about that in a bit. But essentially, it's going through each API, finding stuff, and it was telling me so many debug endpoints were working here. So I looked into it, and I saw a bunch of debug endpoints. Like for example, this one, it's another one of those like you put a guy ID and it gives you an email, right? Like the one on screen. And then I found this crazy endpoint. It was called like get proto definition. So I could just. Remember what I mentioned earlier where everything in Google is protobuf? So I can just put any protobuf type in here. It's going to dump the full protobuf definition. And I told you about the limitation earlier where, I could only do it on APIs which had that like application plus like protobuf or whatever, like this specific content type. But here, I can do it for any protobuf definition I want. So I basically can see the proto definition of any API. I can see the whole request payload for any API on the whole Google. So this was insanely useful. Like I kind of use this a bit. Okay, I wanted to scrape this. So I actually talked to Sam. He's one of the members of the VRP team. He's like, no, you can't, bro. Like can't touch this. So yeah, I had to report this. And okay, but I was tweaking through the other endpoints here as well. And there's one really weird endpoint. Like it was called like list quota queue. So it was like, it started like leaking a bunch of like workflow execution like logs. So I looked at this endpoint first of all. When I tried using it, it just gave some invalid argument error. So this is like a super generic error in Google. When you get invalid argument, it doesn't say anything. It's just invalid argument. So you're supposed to figure out something's wrong with your request. It could be some prerequisite is unmet or something like that. So when I just try to play around with it, I noticed it's like some sort of filter here, right? So maybe this filter has to be set. But when I try like setting like star or the standard stuff you'd set, it just doesn't work. Okay, but like the one thing about Google, right? Remember I mentioned all their infrastructure is super like consistent. They have this like AIP.dev thing. It's like all the standards. And one of the standards is about like the filtering. Okay. And they apply the same standard for like all the filtering. So you can kind of abuse this. So I was like, okay, what if I try like client ID is greater than 123? And then suddenly I get like a completely different response. Okay. It says fail to convert server response to JSON. So I guess they didn't have like the JSON mapping for this response, but they probably have like a protobuf for it. So there's a trick in Google. You can put like alt equals to proto and it'll dump the whole response in protobuf. But there's a catch. So since the way I'm authenticating with this API, I'm using Google's like cookie authentication, which is called first party authentication in Google. So normally you send a request to whatever the Google APIs.com, but here I have to send it to whatever the client6.google.com. It's like this alias they have. And the point of it is it's like a star.google.com. So you can like send requests with Google cookies, right? But they have this like mitigation or some sort of like thing where, if you try sending like a protobuf, you try to get a protobuf response, like a raw protobuf response, like a binary response with like .google.com, it freaks out. It's like, oh no, sorry, it's unsafe. So, but there is like a known trick you can do here to get a protobuf response. So you can actually convert it to base 64. So I was looking through like this. Okay, there's another researcher. He's actually now a Googler. He's called Ezekiel Pereira. So I used to read all his work. He actually found an RSE like super long ago. And yeah, like he kind of inspired me to get into Google and everything. So he had like a 1 hour, like super long talk about, like, I think he went to one of the bug swat, like live hacking events and he did some talk there. And I went through like every single second of this talk, and I took down like notes because everything this guy was saying is a gospel. And one of the things he mentioned was this header, like xgoog encode response if executable base 64. And just nice, that header worked perfectly here. So like that came in super clutch. I tested it. I got a super massive response, and like yeah, it was super big. Then I looked into it. Like I decoded it with like the protobuf definition because I could leak the protobufs from the other endpoint, and then it was like it's some sort of workflow executions for like syncing data between like Spanner, which Spanner is like Google's database. They use this everywhere, and Salesforce. So I'm guessing for some sort of like employees and stuff. So since this was like some sort of like workflow, I was thinking, can I make my own workflow? Like surely it's possible. Okay, first of all, at this point, right, like I already reported it because you have to be a bit careful, like not to go too deep and stuff. I mean, it's already a bug, and they already know about that protobuf thing, so I had to report it. And yeah, I got like P0 instantly. So I knew I'm like probably looking at a place. So I want to get more impact here. So I was trying to see, okay, can I create my own workflow? Turns out like you can, and I was also seeing like what are different types, like task types you can have, and one of the task types was super interesting, generic stubby type tasks. Like this set off like red flag for me instantly, because if you know anything about Google, right? So stubby is their internal like RPC, the like infrastructure. Essentially, if you're aware of gRPC is the public version of it. So you can send like protobufs directly, and the whole client server, they agree on a protobuf definition, and you can send it in a binary, they come back way. That's gRPC. Google has their own internal version of this, which they used before gRPC was released, called Stubby, right? So whenever you send a request to whatever the Google APIs.com, actually that Google APIs.com itself in the backend is defined as a Stubby RPC. It's just exposed as well, and like publicly. Some of them are exposed publicly. But when you hit this, like the code that's running this, the code is also sometimes calls other RPCs to maybe fetch some information, and then it returns it back to you. So this is the Google's like, you can think of it like an SSRF in Google. Okay, I wouldn't call it SSRF, but yeah, it's essentially the SSRF. This was very interesting. And a lot of like Ezekiel's work, one of his bugs involved a stubby, so I kind of had a baseline understanding of this. So I wanted to dig deeper. Okay, can I create my own stubby workflow now? So I tried doing that, but it just didn't work. So for whatever reason, when I tried creating my stubby workflow, it just gave the same, again, like invalid argument. So I don't know what's wrong. So something in my request is wrong. This is where it came like super clutch. Remember the earlier like workflow execution logs I leaked? For like one of the things in that was like
Salesforce ones for.
Yeah, the Salesforce one. So one of the parameters in that, like that leaked thing, was client ID is default, something like that. Client ID default. So I just copied that same thing and pasted it into my request, and I was able to get it working. Like I was able to create the workflow. So then I thought, okay, can I now like publish this workflow? So I made the workflow already, so let me run it. But if you want to run it, you have to publish it first. And if you try to publish it, it gives you some like super long error. Like it says like, oh, you have to raise the request to publish, and it has to be approved. So and like you have by different accounts, something like that. So some super long explanation. And I thought like, there's no way Google is going to approve my workflow or whatever. It's the most suspicious workflow ever. So I was kind of screwed here. So I was like stuck here for like super long. So that was, yeah, then this lasted maybe like a whole month. I was stuck here. But then I was in a random like chat group with like another researcher, and I was telling him like, oh, I have this like endpoint, you can leak any protobuf. Like they haven't patched it yet. So I was telling him about it, and he was like, oh, I know about it already. And I was like, what do you mean? And turns out we had the exact same endpoint, and we both knew about it.
Did you know who this was first, Brute? Were you already friends, or was it just like some random person in the chat?
No, I kind of knew who he was. I didn't speak to him directly. We were just happened to be in some chat group, like many other researchers, right? So yeah, then I DM'd him. We started like the whole conversation. It turns out like he was stuck at a different point. So he was looking at this whole different angle. So I was doing AI scanning across all Google APIs, and I found this weird API. He was researching this whole application integration product. It's like this GCP product. It's very similar to this API. He was researching that, and he saw these things in the JavaScript files, these endpoints. So he found it there. Even the generic stubby type task is there as well. So he kind of knew about it. So, but he was trying to figure out how to create this, because he didn't know client ID default, right? He didn't even know this parameter. So he was trying to create a task. He couldn't create a task. He was looking at a whole different angle. He was stuck there. So I shared my notes. Okay, like look, you can create a task by setting this client ID default, right? And we ended up working on it because he had a lot of experience with this. Maybe he could figure out how to get past this publishing issue. But then we had another issue, because remember I reported this bug like initially. So Google has had all this time to now like slowly fix all the endpoints, and they did. So many of the endpoints are just blocked off. Like this is permission denied. So I was screwed. But for whatever reason, this integration platform, they have like these clone endpoints. Like they have this, so you have get proto definition, and there's workflow support get proto definition, and the workflow support one just works. So maybe they forgot about it. I don't know, but that was pretty funny. So we had these counterparts, but the one endpoint we didn't have a counterpart for was the create workflow. So we had no way to create the workflow. We were literally stuck here. But then for some reason, I sent my whole like thing to Shrug, and he was just playing around with it. It just worked for him. And I was like, what? How's it working for you? Like it's blocked for me. So it turns out like the fix hasn't been like rolled out fully. It's like partially rolled out. So if you hit some data centers, it'll just work. But when I'm from Singapore, it didn't work. From Canada, it seemed to work. So he sent me. So the way Google's like IP address stuff like works, right? Like whenever you hit like www.google.com, right, it like resolves to some IP address like based in your country, and this also is linked to some sort of 1E100.net like IP. So it's like I think it's an airport country code, the nearest airport country code type to you dot like 1E100.net, something like that. So he basically sent me his address, and I was able to get it like working on my end, and it'll basically consistently hit like same data centers around the country. So then I was able to create a task. Then we tried to like go deeper, and using his knowledge in like how does integrations work, because he was pretty deep in this API, this application integration. So he figured out, we can use the ACL endpoints. We can configure like we can add another Gaia ID or another Gaia user, basically a Google account, to this workflow. Then we can use that Google account to approve the workflow. And then you can publish the workflow, and then everything just works. So we were able to publish it. Okay, then we found for the stubby workflow, there's still parameters. So how are you supposed to know what is the parameters, right? And in the JavaScript files of application integration, so generic stubby type tasks itself didn't work, but there was like some generic stubby type tasks v2, and that for some reason on the application integration, if you tried setting that workflow there, so it just worked there for some. And it didn't work there directly, but it would tell you the parameters that's needed. Let's say, you need to have server spec, you need to have server method, you need all these different parameters for the task. Then I was like, okay, sure, let's just copy all this and put it there. And we set server. We didn't found like random values for these. Like I think there's like some discovery document in Google, and we saw some like alkali base. The GSLB alkali base. So GSLB is Google Service Load Balancer. That's like the address. Then we use /server status to get services. Then we published the workflow. We ran the workflow, and it actually worked. Like we got a whole response there. Like the adrenaline rush was crazy. Okay, because once I already knew, like once you have like the stubby access in Google, it's basically remote code execution at this point, because they consider remote code execution. If you think about it, right, in Google, right, even if you were to get like if you go to youtube.com, if you were to get RCE there, right, you're in some Borg task, right? Borg task is like they're whatever, like their containers where they run code and stuff, right? What is the impact there, right? The impact, sure, you can see the stuff that's locally being processed, but the reason they actually pay RCE for it, RCE payout for it, is because of the prod identity it has, like YouTube services at prod.google.com, and what it's able to reach via stubby. That's the reason why they pay so much. So if you're able to just execute arbitrary stubby queries through this, now that's Google considers as RCE. So at this point, we like stopped like touching it. We okay. I did want to go deeper, so we did ask if you can go deeper, but they're like, nope, you have to stop everything here, and they cut us off like instantly. Like they're super fast at stopping this. I think like, and in fact, within 1 hour after we reported this, like the rollout I mentioned, which was working for Canada, doesn't work for Singapore. That whole thing like fully rolled out, so it didn't work anywhere. So if we were like 1 hour too late, we wouldn't have been able to like do this at all. So it was super clutch. Okay, and
that's crazy.
It ended up getting paid as like. Yeah.
Brute, me and Doug were recently talking about as well, talking about pwn to own, and like how luck, even though you can be super skilled, luck becomes like part of it. And I mean, it's kind of the same here, right? You've obviously got a super amazing knowledge over Google, and I'm sure you've shrugged it as well. But there's so many things there where it's just like timing, timing of you both like the DMs between you, timing of you getting this an hour before the changes go through. Yeah, super clutch.
Yeah, it's really interesting how all the pieces come together.
Like you wouldn't expect this, like this type of clutch. Like I had to meet this guy first of all, and not only that, like the same day we met each other, we were like figuring out this whole thing.
Did you meet in person? Did you meet in person or just online?
No, we didn't meet.
He's not Singapore.
Yeah, just online.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not many hackers in Singapore. Yeah, I wish I could be there, but he's all the way in Canada.
There's quite a lot of hackers in Singapore. Singapore and Vietnam, I think. I mean, you guys have Star Labs as well and Watchtower.
Oh yeah, Star Labs is really correct. Yeah, I know the founder. I think it's Jacob, right? He runs Star Lab. Yeah, like I see him in pwn to one all the time. Always like they're always like first place or second place. It's crazy stuff. But yeah, you're right. There are Singapore hackers, but maybe in Google Cloud at least, I'm not too sure about that. Like there's not many Singapore hackers with that. So yeah, but we ended up getting the whole thing working. But And that was not the end of it. So you would think that that's the end. We have the whole RC and it's reported, but no. So it turns out like for whatever reason, 3 months later, my AI was like reporting more bugs again. It was like telling me, oh, like now it's not this internal API. It's the application integration itself now has bugs, right? It had this weird bug. Okay, if you think about it, if you send it like a GET request or a POST request, for like most of GCP, the way the endpoints work, it's like /project /your project ID, then / whatever resource. Okay, so then it's like scoped to your project ID. But for whatever reason, you could do like /project /your own project, but then reference the UUID of like some other person's asset, and it would just work. So it's a classic IDOR, and this worked across the whole API. So I could essentially get anyone's like integration on this whole API, but it was not too impactful. If you think about it, how am I supposed to get this UUID? It's a super long ID. You can't like brute force it super easily. Yeah, it's not feasible. Okay, so I want to figure out, is there any way I could leak this UUID? So there's this weird, first of all, this application integration, it's just a no-code like automation solution. Even this cloud CRM is the same thing. You can like drag and drop different connectors. Oh, I want to grab data from one GCP product. I want to send it to another one, or I want to send an email about this. Like it's like a no-code automation thing, like maybe similar to Anytend, if you've heard of that. Like it's kind of like that. So I was looking at what are the features in this. So it turns out you can basically make your integration. You can add a test case for your integration. Okay, and if you add a test case in the integration, it would basically, yeah, so you can create a test case and you can load your own test cases. But this load test case endpoint was super weird. It's like it was list test cases, but it was like filtering to your project like client side. Like there was like a workflow ID equals to your workflow ID. This is all client side. So I was like, what happens if I just remove that? Okay, and I just removed it, and it dumped everybody's like test cases to the whole GCP. So I saw like random like at Google.com tons of stuff. Maybe if you scroll up, you can see it. Just scroll up, yeah. No, I think even more.
That's an interesting. That's a pretty cool tactic, and I've seen that type of tactic work before too, where sometimes removing information actually gets you further, right?
It's a super surprising one to see on Google though. Like to just take away the ID and get all of them back. That's like.
I think it's surprising to see almost anywhere though. I don't think it's intuitive. I don't think as like security researchers we think like we see an API, we see it requires X, Y, and Z, and so we want to fill out X, Y, and Z, right? But I think it's what you're highlighting here is a very valid fuzzing technique of what happens when the information's not provided. And whether it's Google or somebody else, I just think it's an interesting call out that's a very valid fuzzing technique and produces results.
No, literally. And like, see, if you think about it, most of these bugs, right? They're bugs you'd find, like you mentioned, like on other like companies as well. It's just you have to get through all these like layers of obfuscation. You have to figure out what is protobuf, how to read all this, and only then you can start testing it. So that's why I say it's security by obscurity for many of it. So yeah, I could list all the test cases and I could dump that, but now I had like a problem. So even though I could dump the test cases, I couldn't actually see that the whole point is to get the UUID. I wanted to get the UUID, but the UUID was like blanked out. Like it just showed like a dash there. So whatever I supplied as the client side, it was returning that as a UUID. So I was screwed. So then I was thinking, like, what way can I get a UUID? So there's a filter parameter for this. That was the thing I removed, right? I removed the workflow ID equals to whatever filter. But what if I can use this and then do a binary search on it? So I figured, because it uses the same filter thing I told you before, right? The AIP, thing. So I pretty much, I did a binary search. I fixed it on a specific test case. Now, workflow ID is greater than this, or workflow ID is like less than this. I could do a little binary search, and I've ended up like brewing the whole thing. So I had like Claude like do a little, like I just wrote like write a binary search for this, and it made this whole animation. Essentially, so I could slowly see it brewing. It was super cool. And then I got the ID. Now I had everything chained together. I could basically get a workflow ID, and I could then use this and take over anyone's integration, read your integration, all this kind of stuff. But so then I was thinking, okay, what is the next step beyond this? Sure, I can take over your integration. But can I now like use the same? What if there's a Googler integration? Because remember those other ones had like at google.com. So what if I can now configure some sort of internal task type, or like maybe a Googler one has an internal task type. So, but see, I have to draw a red line here because I can't like enumerate like Googler or like internal customer records and stuff like that. I have to stop here. So I ended up just I just compiled everything together, sent in the report, and I just called it a day. That was the first part. But yeah, so. That was where I left off. But then I was like, okay, what is exactly stopping me from making this integration myself? Because sure, I can like, what is preventing me from making my own generic stubby type tasks for my application integration? So then it turns out, okay, they have some sort of like fix for this where, if you try to do it, it just says, it just times out. It's just task timed out after like 120 seconds. So I was screwed here. So that was the fix. But then I was like, okay, what if I make a test case and then execute that test case, right? Is that going to be different? So I tried it. So I was just playing around on a task. I think I was using a Python task at this point. It was one of the internal tasks. And I got a super sus error. Like it said like no disk space like available. Like the Linux error when like you run out of disk space. It was giving that error. And it was so sus. Like, I think if you scroll down a bit, you can see it. The error I got. So this was creating the workflow, and yeah, no space left on device. So I was like, what is going on here? Okay, and it was like a big flat like display. It was like no space left in device. And it was like giant on the screen. So then I was like, okay, what if I try this on the stubby one now? So I tried the stubby one. It gives a different error. Failed to execute test case, unknown error. Like it just says that, so it doesn't say anything else. So how am I supposed to get more information? Turns out there's like this logs you can look at, so you can see the execution logs. And like GCP is super nice for this. They have so many logs, and it leaks a lot of internal information a lot of the time. So I looked at the log for this, and I got like Ubermint verification is disabled. You can enable it in like authentication methods and RPC security policy. Like I instantly knew I was hitting stubby. Like this is a stubby error. So the reason for this error, if you think about it, so stubby, okay, if you get stubby access, it's not okay. They still have another layer of security beyond that. So each prod account has an identity, right? And for RPCs, you can like whitelist certain like prod accounts for this RPC. So I think the RPC I was trying to hit here wasn't this prod account was not whitelisted for that. It's not whitelisted for Alkali base. So it gave this error, right? At this point, like I already reported it because Google treats these as like incidents. You have to be super careful. Like they have their whole like team like investigating all the logs and stuff. So yeah, I just reported this straight away, and it took super long to hear back. Like the previous one I heard back within like a few days. This one took like a month to hear back. But when I heard back, I got it was interesting. They gave like a 75K bounty this time instead of like a 60K. And it turns out, right? So they have like 3 tiers for their bounties. There's a 50K bounty for like if it's an unprivileged stubby account, like a production account that doesn't have much privileges, but if it's 75K is for like a highly privileged account, like now you can start doing all kinds of stuff inside this with this account. Then 100K is for like you have admin in Google Cloud essentially. So these are the 3 tiers, right? And yeah, so like, but in my opinion, right, even if you have any sort of like initial access, you can probably privilege escalate it. Like if you think about it, like they have not looked at its surface at all. Like nobody really digs into this, like and there's so much attack surface as well. So yeah, so that's why there's impact like either way. But they just obviously won't let you test it, like because you can't test stuff with a production identity. You probably break something.
They do that though. Yeah. It's because I mean they're saying that, and I think I've seen this with Google a few times where people have reported stuff, and then they go away for a while, then come back and like, actually, we found this is worse internally than you realize, and we're pumping it up to this bounty because of that. You have a lot of bug bounty platforms like you submit a bug and they're like, oh yeah, we knew about that one, we're not paying you, and then you have Google and like, oh actually, we're going to pay you way more than than you wanted.
Well, literally, that's one of the best things about Google. They'll do a full investigation and they'll find the maximum impact you can have. And actually, in this case, right, whatever I had shown, they escalated even more. I think they changed it with some other bug. Okay, they won't tell me about it. I kept asking them, but their mouth is shut. But apparently that happened, and because of that, they were able to get this additional impact, and that's why they gave it the 75K tier. So yeah, like that's what I really love about Google. A lot of like platforms I've heard like they try to like screw you and stuff, but Google is kind of the opposite here. So it's always nice to work with Google, like work with Google basically. And yeah, in total, so okay. In fact, even after I reported this, for some reason, I think they like the integration endpoint, like the fetch integration, it was still vulnerable to the IDOR. They didn't even fix the IDOR properly. So I just told them about it, and they gave me like another additional bounty even after that. So for fixing that. So yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, I think it goes to show how well Google understands the value of the offensive security space, and that you're working to help protect their environment, which I think is awesome to have a company that has that type of attitude. But before we move on to the next one, I just had a few as I'm absorbing the breadth of information that you're providing to us, which is fantastic. Yeah, exactly. I had a few like general like takeaways that I think are important to highlight for those that are like maybe their heads exploding with all the awesome information that you're providing. But one of the things I think is a big theme in everything that you're saying is how important it is to continuously leak more information about what you're looking at, right? Like you got stuck at several points, and what allowed you to move forward was continuing to learn more about the environment, and you're learning more about the environment by leaking information. And I think sometimes, researchers get caught up in, oh, it's only an information leak. Oh, that's not an RCE bug, right? Or like, that's not that important. And I think it's a great
another one
call-out.
is researchers, they find it, but they just report the information leak straight away and get like an informative report, exactly. Or maybe just nothing at all. takes a bit of discipline to hold on to it and to keep digging, especially if it's like over a long period of time.
100%. Like I just think that's so important. And then the other thing I think is really cool, especially in this last one that we walked through, which is similar but different, which was you got stuck and then it took collaboration with other researchers and collaborating with other researchers in the industry who were taking a completely different angle, right, to approach the problem based on what you said, but that was able to help you work together to get through that. I think that's also important. Like we don't have to work as security researchers in an island in a vacuum, right? The more we work together, the better we're going to produce these type of results. So this is a couple like really cool call outs that I thought from what we've been talking about so far. I also like, by
collaboration.
The way, oh, go ahead.
What did you say, sir? Oh, okay. No, what I was saying, I was just saying that the collaboration is super important. Like so many bugs I've worked on, like I wouldn't be able to get anywhere with it if it was not for collaboration. Because the other guy has like things that is thinking about a whole different angle that you wouldn't have even considered, right? Because maybe he found it a different way, or like he can approach it a different way. So it's always super valuable. So that's why I try to talk to as many researchers as possible. I try to network with many researchers. I really love like the live hacking events for this purpose. So Google has like these live hacking events sometimes, and whenever I go there, I meet so many like smart people, like definitely smarter than me, and we talk and we get to like obviously get each other's contact, and after that we can start working on bugs together. Maybe I have some sort of initial impact. I'm stuck here. He can have a look and maybe he can find something. And so many times that's just worked out. So that's why I really love like collaboration. And I think more researchers should try to do this more, because maybe you can get escalate more. And also on one of the points you brought earlier about the informational things. So yeah, you should never like report these informational leaks. Like I never report them, because if you think about it, like what's the point of reporting it? Sure, you're going to get like some $50 bounty maybe, but instead you can hold this information leak if it's genuinely useful, and you can start using this to find like other like more critical bugs. You get crits, and that'll pay out way more than anything you would have got from like reporting this informational. So certain things like that, I wouldn't even like bother reporting it. Like it's just not worth it. Yeah.
No, that's an interesting point too. Do you think in your opinion here that potentially information bugs are undervalued by companies? Like you said, like, oh, I'm going to hold it because what am I going to get, like a $50 payout, and that's not worth it type thing. Do you think there's a world where it would make sense for companies to be paying more for information bugs because of what they could lead to in this experience?
Oh, yeah, I think definitely. Okay, you're raising a pretty interesting point here. So yeah, like I would actually say, so you're right. Like many times it's information bugs. See, there's like some information bugs are like only for, like I'll say for Google specifically, right? Like I mentioned how their API infrastructure is everywhere. So if you find like one like informational bug, it kind of like lets you access the whole suite of stuff, and it's way more impactful there. For some companies, it's just kind of scoped. Like sure, I can get like some like debug leak for this one application, but it's only that application. I can't get much impact from it. For Google, it's a different story, because now everything is the same infrastructure. So I can scale this bug and or use it and find other stuff everywhere. So yeah, I would say for Google specifically, it's way more impactful. But I don't think they pay these out, like these debug stuff out too much. I mean, if you can leak source code or this kind of stuff, I'm sure they'll pay for it. But like just for like small leaks here and there, they're not gonna pay for it, even though it may be useful. They just won't pay for it. But maybe they should. But I don't know. But that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting thing to think about, right? Because they are super valuable, and we've even seen some of our work too with different technologies. Like, hey, you've got things like ASLR. Well, how are you going to bypass ASLR to get a full chain? You're going to leak information, and so that additional bug to leak it is really what's enabling you to get full RCE. But no one values the fact that you can leak something that provides you later. So it's an interesting conversation. But anyway, why don't we've got up here on the screen a pretty big number. So let's and I started scanning some of this article that you released, and it's awesome. It's an amazing article. I did not get through the whole thing yet.
Do you want me to show any part of this, or shall I stop sharing and you want to just talk a bit through it? Is there something which should make a good visual?
You can start with it. Yeah, I can just talk a little bit about this. So okay, so essentially, like I mentioned, Google's infrastructure is super consistent. So I was thinking, I think around like BugSwat Mexico, it was last year, I was invited to this like live hacking event by Google, and I wanted to see like what are all because Google is very cool in this angle where they let you see the source code and stuff at these events. So at BugSwat Mexico, I was able to like Google's to just show you the laptop. Oh, you can just search anything you want. Like, oh, that was insane to me. Like most companies would never do that. But obviously they had an NDA or whatever. But that kind of like brought my interest back to Google, because I was doing some other projects at the time. So then the whole time I was thinking, because I knew about this thing is Google. It's called Discovery Document. So I wrote like a whole like article about this. But in fact, even though I wrote that article, I didn't even utilize it that much myself. And I wanted to, but I just didn't have the motivation. But this kind of got me back that motivation. Then I was thinking, not only because the thing about Discovery Documents, they describe the whole API. Think about like Swagger, right? Swagger kind of defines the whole API. It gives you everything about the API. But and Google has this for all their APIs. It's like some proprietary format, but it's like so big. Like if you think about a people API, there's like 200 methods. Like, am I going to sit there and like test each one like manually? Like it's so much work. Okay, to be honest. So I was kind of lazy, so I didn't do that. But now with AI, because I was using Claude. So I was using Claude since like a long time ago. Like when initially Claude was like a web app, right? It was not like Claude code. I used to use Claude. Even my first tool, like Vector Proto tool you mentioned earlier, was written by Claude. But like the way I wrote it was I would like type in the Claude web and then copy paste the code and then paste it in the thing because there's no like Claude code. So that was the initial way of using Claude.
We all did that in the beginning.
I was doing that.
Stages of it.
I was doing that about 6 months ago while I was still using ChatGPT and just copying and pasting code across.
And it works. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay, yeah, it kind of works. But okay, if you're working on like a bigger project, that's where you kind of have issues because it doesn't have the context and stuff. Yeah, but yeah, that's how I pushed out the first thing. But then Claude Code came around. I was playing around with Claude Code. It was super cool to me. Like how you could just type something and it'll read your whole code base, figure out everything. And yeah, so I was doing all my projects with that. Then I was thinking, okay, if AI is this good, because we already got to the extent, like this was last year, like I think around October. AI is so good already. Okay, surely it can automate this if I give it the tools. I think MCP like kind of released around this time, and now agents not only had access, like it had tools it can call. It can start doing actual actions. So I want to see, what if I connect like some sort of tool to test the API and then do that? So that was the whole thing I was thinking about. I was just thinking about this the whole time. I was telling people, like, I was just yapping about this. Whenever I had a chance to speak to someone, I was like, dude, like, what if I could just do this idea? And I don't think anyone took me too seriously. Okay, but so that was pretty funny. And the moment this bug spot finished, I was working on, like, within 1 week, I had an MVP. So the first element I worked on, right, in Google API is I wanted to first get from the discovery document to some sort of like UI where I could easily test stuff. So in Swagger, sure, you have that like UI you can test stuff, but the proprietary format for Google doesn't, like, there's nothing for this. You can convert a Google thing to the Swagger document, but if you do that, you'll lose a lot of data, like enums, this kind of thing. So I don't want to lose any data. I want to have all the data and I want to make it. So I basically made this. So there's something in Google called like this like Google, I think it's developer like Explorer, so the API Explorer. That's what it's called. So this API Explorer is super fun. You can, or this is only for public APIs. So you can go to like YouTube Data API, for example. I can click on it and I can see the different methods. I can then try it directly in the browser. Like I really love using this for all my bugs. Even that YouTube bug I mentioned, I use the Data Explorer or whatever to define it. They don't have this for private APIs. It's only for public APIs. And it used to be open source like a long time ago, but it just stopped being open source. So I was like, okay, maybe I just make my own version of it. So I had my own version. I just vibe coded it like a week. You can upload like a discovery document. It'll start listing all the methods and you can click on it and I'll have like, I want to make it as simple as possible for testing. I don't want to have to like configure the authentication and all that myself. And Google uses like this first party authentication. It's like this, so there's some random like TypeScript file that was leaked in one of like Google's endpoints. Like, they had like source maps enabled. So you could take that file. It showed the whole like Google's like internal library for this whole authentication. So if you take that and you can figure out like this whole authentication automated, and now I can go to any endpoint, see like a whole thing. I can copy the burp suite or any sort of like testing tool and immediately start testing this endpoint. And I convert it to like JSON because like the discovery document has like structs and stuff. It's very complicated, but yeah, because it's converted from protobuf, right? So yeah, I made it like a very simple thing. So it's just JSON. I can edit. Yeah. So I basically built this whole thing. But once I build this thing, yeah, sure, I can now test everything very easily, but I'm not going to test it myself. I want the AI to test it. So now I started work on like, how can I give these AIs like certain tools to do this? So the initial tools, like maybe you want to share the article now. I could kind of show you some of the tools I had at the very beginning. Okay, it wasn't too good. Like it was the AI had to like basically send a bunch of unnecessary stuff every request. Like if you think about it, why should the AI for every tool call be sending the host name, a bunch of stuff that it already knows? If you're working on this API, why do I have to keep sending this host name? It's more things the AI can go wrong. Okay. And it'll sometimes like hallucinate something wrong and it'll send the wrong, like the wrong tool call. I wanted to make it as simple as possible. So there's less margin for error. See, I don't want the AI thinking about...
This is what you want me to show here. Sorry, my camera's always disappear whenever I share.
Yeah, okay. The first thing here, this is the API Explorer I mentioned, the whole front end thing I made. So if you scroll down a bit, you can see this front end. I made like a whole interactive thing where you can like see, this is exactly how the front end looks like one-to-one. If you click the play button, you can see it like play the request. Okay, so yeah, this is an interactive demo I made. But This is how it looks like.
Yeah. I see. Okay, nice.
Yeah, so you see, it shows like the response, and now I can like see everything. So here, very easy to keep like testing stuff. But yeah, I want the AI to do this. Like, I don't want to do this myself. So that's where I got started with the AI. But the AI was, so like I mentioned, the initial approach was super bad. Like it was. Okay, I used a Ralph Wiggum loop, which is like this loop that you can, until it solves the task, it's going to keep looping. It's not going to let it stop. If it tries to stop,
Ralph Wiggum,
it'll continue until you finish. Yeah, I mean that's just called that. It's called that. I don't know why, but it's called Ralph Wiggum.
I'm gonna have to do some digging and find out why it's called though. That's interesting.
I think Anthropic called it that, and it's just everyone started calling it that. But yeah, that's pretty funny. But yeah, so I made this tool called like confirm testing complete. So okay, so let's say we take an API. It has to test this API fully. If it so it tests like 2 methods and it gives up, then I'm not gonna let it give up. I'm gonna tell it, oh, you have not tested all these methods, so continue testing it. So it just can't stop until everything is tested. So I did that. But see, the problem is these APIs, like I told you, the people API, it's so massive, right? And also, see, back in the day, like, or at this point, we were kind of like, see, we didn't have the control plane of Bash. Think about it that way. Like a lot of stuff was just MCP tools. And a lot of us were like stuffing stuff in the system prompt as much as possible and giving AI information that way, which we later learned that that's not the best way to give information. But at this time, I didn't know that. So I was just doing the standard approach. So I would kind of compress this document into the initial context, and I would tell it all about this. But the documents are too massive. Okay, like people API, it'll just die after a certain point because it runs out of like context or something and it doesn't compress. Yeah, so I had all these problems. So I thought of some solution to this, which is I would group this based on like CRUD endpoints. So think about like a massive API, like create, read, update, delete, these kind of endpoints. So I'll put them in a group together. The AI still has access to other endpoints to test it, but I will do a whole testing session just focused on that group. So then I would do this for every single group. So yeah, so this is exactly the body you're showing right now. This is the body that I would send, like the tool call would send. So you can see it sends a bunch of like unnecessary stuff. Like why is it sending the host name every single time? Or why is it sending like method ID? Like there's a bunch of stuff that it doesn't need to like send. So I ended up like simplifying this completely, even the version. So I don't want the AI to make mistakes. If there's a way to make a mistake, the AI will make it. So I simplified it like down completely just to sending the body. If you think about it, what does the AI need to do? It just comes up with bodies to test, right? So I simplified it down to just that. Just choose the method, choose the body, and that's it. And you can add like authentication. Just include threads, and that's the guy ID, and it would now have authentication headers and everything. You don't have to. The AI does not have to worry about authentication in Google. So it's just focused on this. Then I had a lot of success with this initially, but I had a bunch of problems. So in Google, right, many requests have like API. You need an API key to send a request, okay? And I did a whole thing where I gathered I scraped like every single APK on Google. I scraped every single IPA, all this whole thing, and I grabbed as many keys as possible. And I think in the end I had like thousands of keys, all these different things, and I had like categorized into like which APIs work for which keys. So I had this whole thing, but different keys can give you different responses.
Back up just for a second, like. What allows you to get that many API keys?
Oh yeah, of course. So okay, API keys, like most companies would think API keys like a secret. For Google, it's not a secret. At least these like AI ZA keys, like the keys that start with that, they're actually client-side keys. So they're intended to be public. Like let's say, for example, they just identified a quota client. It's for like rate limiting purposes. You can think of it that way. Or like,
it's the same for like bug bounty as well, right? You have like most bug bounty programs will specifically say like out of scope, like, and it normally mentions like Google APIs because it's normally like maps and stuff as well, right? That people like hook up to their website.
Yeah, exactly. The maps is a perfect example. So it's like an intended client-side key. So they embed this everywhere. Okay, but the funny thing is these keys can sometimes have internal APIs enabled for them. So that's kind of why I want to gather as many keys as possible from all the various sources, like JavaScript files, the APKs. Like there was like this one APK site, one of those like APK sites that archives everything. I downloaded like 60,000 APKs, every single APK Google has ever published. Then I like took that, I decompiled all of them, gripped out all the keys as much as I could. Then for IPAs, we had to decrypt them. So this was a whole effort I had to do. And in the end, I got this massive database of keys, and this was super useful. Like, see, recon is one of the most important things when it comes to bug bounty because in fact,
you should do that again. I think that's a very valuable point.
Oh yeah. So recon, right? If you think about it, what's the limiting factor of this whole AI setup, this whole AI scanner? It's the API keys, because the API keys is what's like allowing me to access the API. If I don't have a key that's enabled to send an API, I can't even access it. So that's why I spend so much time doing all this recon and making it perfect. Like I don't do any half job. If any part of this process was a half job, everything is limited by that. So if I'm at APIs, is like I only find like maybe 10 different APIs and I'm only restricted to that. Or if I only find like 100 keys. I'm going to stuck to that. So you need to have everything to be perfect. So everything is to be as much as I possibly could. Like, if there's a way to get more keys, I've done that way. So yeah, I basically did that.
Because we go through this so fast, right? So for context, for people that are listening, when you say like, I spent a lot of time gathering these API keys, like put some type of, it doesn't have to be perfect, obviously, put some type of number to it. Did you spend, a couple hours getting API keys? I know the answer to that, but like, or did you spend a couple months? Like put some type of scope to it so that we understand the context here.
So like probably like the whole day I was working on it for like weeks. I was working with another researcher, Michael Dalton. So we were trying to collect the keys as much as possible because I wanted to, like, if I was working as one guy, sure, I could do it, but it's faster to collab with another person and try to do it as well because we have the same shared goal of getting as many keys as possible. So I was working with him. He would like work on the IPAs. I would work on the Android apps. We kept doing this. It would take like multiple days of effort to do all this. Maybe it took us like, I think 2-3 weeks and then we had all the keys ready. Then only we can move to the next step, which is actually doing this testing, right? So yeah, so that it takes time, but it's worth it and you have to do it well. So the problem now comes where certain keys have like these labels tied to it. Like a key can have like some sort of Google internal label. It's a label, for example. So I have to essentially, if you can't just send a request with one key, because what if this other key gives a different response? So I basically send the request with all the keys, but then sometimes it's like the same response back, right? So I don't want to spam the AI and waste the context. So I did this a grouping thing where like I hashed the same, if it's the same response body, I'll hash it and then I'll just show the response once. So I did this whole thing. So this kind of cut down the response a lot and saved a lot of context because like you didn't have like 1 mil context when you back then. I think I was doing like a maximum like 100K context. So I had to like limit that as much as possible. And also back then, right, if you use too much context, you're kind of like, it makes the AI dumber. The more context you're using, the dumber the AI gets. So you have to kind of reduce that as much as possible. So that was kind of what I was using. And another thing is, remember how I mentioned Google has all these weird errors? Like they'll say invalid argument, or they'll say, okay, one of the most annoying errors is like method not found. So they'll just say method not found. Like, does that mean the method is not found? No, it doesn't. It means that there's the visibility label that you have. Like this key doesn't have the visibility label. There's like a certain label you have to have in your GCP project. Only then you can see this key. So, but they're not going to tell you that. So it's like an obscure error. So I kind of know all these obscure errors from like my whole time, like looking into Google. So I basically set up this whole like standard thing where, okay, if you get this specific response, it's going to be like a standard error type. So it'll say like missing required visibility label. And for some of them, like the invalid argument one, I will even give an explanation. Okay, this is like if you scroll on a bit, you can see the explanation. I just wrote something like, oh, this is a standard, like no, okay, something is wrong in the request, so you need to fix it, and no details were provided, something like that. So yeah, so this is the invalid argument error. And yeah, this request was rejected by the application. So I made this whole thing, and I did this for all the common errors. So now the AI was pretty nice, but okay, there's still a bunch of problems. So when it ran this, sure, it was finding bugs, but like, the problem is the bugs are within like 90% of nonsense. So it will start reporting like, oh, you can enumerate IDs in this endpoint. Like that's not okay, sure, that's interesting, but it's not a bug I care to report, right? No one's going to accept that. And most of the time was just spent like reviewing this. And after that, like, I'll get kind of like, you get burned out because you're reading all these like junk AI reports. Like I feel bad for triages if you think about it. Like this is what they deal with every day. They see all this like slop. It's a slop report. Okay, so I have to cut down on this as much as possible, right? I don't want my time being wasted in looking at all this. So I thought about it. So what makes validation painful? The first thing is I have to test it myself, right? I have to go there to this endpoint. Sure, I have this UI, right? But I still have to go there, find it, set all the parameters, and test it. So I thought about it. What if I can just like make some sort of proof that the AI can't make up? Because the AI would hallucinate so much. It would say, oh, like I leaked the emails for everybody, and it turns out I just like made it all up. The way I would solve this is what can the AI not hallucinate? Sure, the AI can do like API calls with the tool calls, right? And what I did is every tool call it does, I store that response, okay? And it's called an operation, right? So then when the AI wants to create a lead, which is like a vulnerability, wants to tell me about it, it has to attach these operation IDs and it can embed them to the report. So these can't be faked because they have to be real operations. So that way I can see the real operation. Is it a real thing that happened? Then I have in my UI, I have like a button. I can just click play in that UI thing and it replays the whole request. Then I can see if it's happening live. And that cut down like so much stuff. Even that wasn't all because okay, sure, now I could reproduce it easily, but there's still so many like bugs. It's not actually bugs. So I spent a lot of time like working on like the initial prompt. I would tell it like all the things that are not bugs. So I made a super like long prompt. I'll tell it like, okay, these are like, don't report like enumeration bugs. You can use it for testing, but don't actually report it. And yeah, basically I told it like what's out of scope, what's in scope, stuff like that. Kind of give it a whole guide of this. And I had to refine this a bunch. Like initially it was not too good, but eventually I got it down and it was working super well. Like I think at this point, like most of the things it reported were all valid bugs. So I had this whole like gold rush and I was finding like, bugs left and right. Like I just ran this whole thing. So then I kept reporting.
I love that you shared your prompt here. I feel like not enough researchers are sharing their actual refined prompts, and they're just saying, oh, I prompted to do X, Y, and Z. So I think this is super valuable for people to see like the pain points you're running through when leveraging AI and like how you're overcoming that. I love that about that.
Some useful tips as well, because I come across the same things. I was thinking whenever you were talking, you're talking here about validating. Obviously, this comes up all the time for me as well. Vulnerability research, bug bounty of it, like, it'll come up with things like saying that, oh, if you're connected to the device, like man in the middle attack, or like, oh, this there's no rate limit on this token, and it's like a 32 or a 64 character token. It's like you can brute force that. That's they'll come up with that sort of useless stuff. And then also another thing you were describing there is that like giving up. Like this is another thing I find. Like my AI bug bounty system has access to like 60 plus tools, all these word lists, and it'll come back all the time like, I'm done. We've completely exhausted the attack surface. I'm like, okay, how many of those 60 tools have you run? How many of those word lists have you run? Have you done the subdomains? Have you done like parameters? Have you done, files, endpoints? And then it just comes back and it's like, yeah, I didn't do any of that. I'll stop doing that now. So it's cool that you've actually wired that into the approach rather than just constantly prompting like, no, don't stop.
Because you think about it, right? That can be automated, right? Like that's why I made this thing where, you can't stop. If you want to stop, too bad. Like you're going to keep going. So until you test every single endpoint, I'm not going to let you stop. So so all these like different approaches, like I had to figure it out myself. So, and ended up like working it really well, right? So I got so many bugs. So every day I'll report like a new bug, and it was so fun because I'm dumping this PII, dumping this, like I can access this corporate thing, and it's all Google. Like I really love like trying these Google bugs. They're all very interesting. So, okay, I can cover some of the bugs here. Some of them are super cool. So for example, this first one, okay, Google Voice ATO. Okay, this was super fun. There was this endpoint, a G-Fiber voice. Okay, so it's an unauthenticated endpoint. You don't even need authentication. You just if you just hit this endpoint and supply a guy ID, it leaks the Google account phone number, like the recovery phone number. It leaks your Google Voice number. It leaks the email. It leaks everything. The pin, like literally everything about the guy. So this is really funny. All you need, and this ID, by the way, this is the unobfuscated guy ID. Remember I mentioned there's an obfuscated one, and unobfuscated one. This is the raw guy ID. So you can like enumerate this. So I can just enumerate this for every single Google user. So by itself, it was super impactful. But then it was even more funny because they had an assigned number. So I could just assign any number to the guy ID, okay? And then when you go to your like Google account, like phone settings, you'll see the phone number there. And you could also like steal Google Voice numbers. You could do all kinds of stuff with this. Even though it gives like some weird error, it would still work in the end. That was super fun to play around with. This is a P0, I think, and they patched it super fast, like within a few hours. But not only that, right? This endpoint was more impactful because remember I mentioned the SIM swapping thing? Turns out this had like some endpoints for that, like initiate number port. It seemed like you could do some sort of SIM swap with this. I didn't test with this because by the time I just reported it when I went to sleep or something, and they patched it by the time I woke up. So I didn't get to play around with too much. It seems to be that you can just set like any subscriber and sort of do a SIM swap, I guess, with their whatever stuff internally. That was very interesting. That was the first thing. But then after that, right, after we patched it, we checked the endpoint again and it said something like not found. Okay, it just said not found. A super weird error. I've never seen this error in my whole life. I mean, okay, I've seen it before, but I only seen it in one place. So my own infrastructure, I use Envoy proxy everywhere. Okay, I have like Kubernetes, like gRPC. I use it all in my own infrastructure. And I know this error is like an Envoy proxy error. I was like, okay, this is weird. Then I sent it to like my friend and basically turns out like when you go to homepage, it was redirecting to some status Z. Okay, Google has this thing called Z handlers. So these are like these debug pages. If you're any corporate, if you're a corporate employee, if you just go to like www.google.com/proxy, for example, or status Z, it's going to list like a debug handlers for this application. Okay, and these debug handlers are so useful. They, for example, flag Z, right? They leaks like API keys inside there. Or proc Z is LFI as a service, and you can type any file there. It's going to dump the whole file, and it's inside the Borg task, I guess. So yeah, it's very cool. So, but this one was, okay, a lot of the pages was like 4 or 3. I guess they blocked most of it. Back in the day, everything was exposed, but nowadays they block most of it. They have like defense in depth. But this one page, BTZ, it just seemed to work. You could see like inside there, it started listing a bunch of like internal jobs and stuff. Like this whole embed is exactly how it looked like. It's really funny. Okay, this specifically didn't have too much impact, but sometimes you can get impact, right? If you can get certain Z handlers. And the funny thing about Z handlers is I was actually, okay, so Google actually leaked this random binary. Okay, they published some like reCAPTCHA binary. And if you ran this reCAPTCHA binary yourself, it had like the Z handlers enabled. Like they accidentally screwed up. They had the debug stuff all like tied to it. So I had Z handlers running locally on my own machine. So then I was like, okay, so think about it. These Z handlers are there for every single Google page, even www.google.com. So what if I find some reflected XSS here? Because Then if I send this reflected XSS to a Googler, it'll just pop, right? So I started looking, I had like my AI like scanning for it. Then in the end, I found some random like URL like /_debug module, something like that. And I could basically put like, it's just reflected XSS. I could just put like the standard like script like alert one. And I sent this to like a Googler and it like popped. So yeah, then I knew it was going to work. So I reported it. That was pretty funny. So yeah, so you can do this. And yeah, there's so much impact here. But yeah, so this is one of the things I did with this. Then the next bug was ad exchange. So I actually found this out from like the CTBB podcast. It's like apparently this is like one of Google's like core like management things. And like how they kind of grew as a company is from this. So you can kind of this was like one of the early stage stuff they had. So where you could I could like as Google has like ads, right? But if I own a website, I can put the Google's ads on my website. It uses ad exchange, I believe. So it's a very critical like application, I guess. So they had this weird endpoint on the production ad exchange API where you could like do cookie matching accounts and start dumping all the accounts and stuff. It was just a list of all the accounts. Like sure, that is a bug, right? It's a bug, but I want to get more impact here. So the other endpoints were all blocked off 4 or 3. I couldn't get anything. But when I tested the same API on staging, okay, so they had like this test environment, so test dash like ad exchange buyer. And that one had no access control. Like everything was like, and it was production data. It was not testing data. Everything was pointing to production. So this was a test account I queried with because I didn't want to touch like customer data, but I could leak everything. I could leak your emails. And yeah, so in total, like, yeah, so you can basically like take over the whole account with this. You can like add yourself as a user in their account and then your user. I couldn't access the front end. I think the front end was like blocked off because my account wasn't whitelisted or whatever, but you can still do all the actions. So it doesn't really matter because the API is like public. I think they gave like a nice bounty, like $30K for this one. So wow. that was really cool. Okay. The other one.
I don't know if we're going to have time to go through all of these bugs. Do you want to pick what's your other most favorite? Or if you give us like a quick overview of the others and just
okay, I'll do one more. Okay, which one do you want? Like Eldar is
I'll be back to read the full thing later. Don't worry. I don't know.
Putting me on the spot here, man. They're all so many fun bugs. Okay, I'll choose one. Maybe Eldar.corp at Google.com. It was a super fun one. So this one was super fun because so Google has this corporate like thing, Eldar.corp.google.com. It's a corp site. Okay. But whenever you report any bug in Google, if you think about it, like who decides what is a bug or not? Like there's a product team that like makes some sort of determination, or this is intended or this is a bug. So this happens through Eldar. Or even like if I'm a Googler, I want to do some sort of investigation and get like access to logs. I have to go through Eldar. I have to make a like thing there and get it approved. So they have this Eldar tool for this. But for some reason, sure, that Eldar.corp.google.com, it's under corp.google.com. So it's under like their Uber proxy. You have to sign in and stuff. You can't access it. The API itself was like completely public. So you just eldar-pa.googleapis.com. That was all public. You just need a key.
So we found a key somewhere. What's the rationale for that would be public at all?
No, it's not intended. It's they didn't think of it.
So I was like, that doesn't make any sense to me why it would be public at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's meant to be under corp.googleapis.com, but it just happened to be public. So I could because it was public, I could start like listing all the data. Like I was able to like leak like all these like internal log requests. Like, the cloud support wants to run like queries and stuff. Like, and okay, this was a massive JSON. I just kind of truncated it here a bit. If you scroll down, I made this whole like interactive like UI. Like, by the way, Google allowed me to disclose this. I have no clue how they allowed that. There's so much internal stuff here. I made this like fun viewer. You can kind of see how the report looks like. All the stuff they fill out and everything. I mean, they're fine with me disclosing it. So I mean, I have no problems. So okay, they asked me to censor a few things, but apart from that, it's all open for you to see. So yeah, that was super fun. But yeah, like I really love this bug because there's so much impact here. And in fact, okay, so they patched it first. But even though they patched it, they patched it first and they marked it as fixed or whatever. Like I found the same thing worked again with the staging version, and the staging version was the same production data. And so they doubled the bounty basically. This ended up getting like 26K. Because so they paid it twice, 13K 2 times. So that was super interesting.
What was the time period of this? Because we've looked at, I think the last one there was 30, right? And then you got 26 on this one. I mean, I guess the total was 500K. But what was the time between you leaking all these API keys and then finding all of these bounties?
Probably like December to maybe like February or March. That was where the big chunk of all of these were.
Yeah. So along that school of thought, I'm curious, right? Like you've even between the other blogs that we're looking at, you've got all these bugs that you have found with Google. Like, what is the average time you spend when for one bug? Like, is it typically about 3-month process, or typically like what's the average? I'm sure there's some that are a lot quicker and some are a lot longer.
Oh, you're saying like if I have a bug and I'm researching how long I take to like fully submit a report?
Yeah.
Okay, like for the most part, if I'm working on like, okay, so I'll be looking, see the most of the time I'm looking for like a target to look at. Okay, at least this was before. Like before AI, I'll spend a lot of time like finding the right target. Then I would spend like a super long time, like not super long time, like maybe like a few weeks, like learning every single thing about this target and then going deep and then finding bugs. That was a traditional approach, right? Now with AI, we can do this like 100x faster. Like we don't have to spend so much time ourselves. We can have the AI like work on it. I have like for a few targets I want to look at, maybe a few like high impact targets. I'll have the AI find interesting attack surface, and the AI can also test it itself. It doesn't take too long. Like I was reporting like one, 2 bugs a single day, like before where you have to spend so long and then finally find a big bug. AI really speeds up everything.
On the AI question as well, have you tried the new model? I know there's been like quite a lot of security guard on this new Fable model. What have you been using in general? Do you use like whenever a new Opus model drops, do you move straight to it, or do you've just been sticking with 4.6? Or
okay, so yeah, I've been on Opus, yeah, but like I tried Fable a bit, but I wasn't able to get past like the guardrails. I guess they have it's super tight. I'm sure you can get around it, but it's just not worth it because most of the time, even if you get past some initial part, when you start doing actually some other work, it'll start like or trying to escalate something. It's gonna switch back to Opus anyway. So exactly. I might as well just use Opus. Like I think eventually they'll probably release this. I mean, the problem is, so they give it to a few like trusted enterprise, right? But it kind of screws the average researcher because now we don't have access to this, and when we could be contributing with that power, right? And I'm sure that like all the bad actors, they probably have access some way. They probably like some hacked account or some other way. So I'm not sure it really solves the problem by gatekeeping it. But yeah, what can you do about that?
Yeah, that's definitely controversial point there about whole gatekeeping it and who it's protecting and who it's not and what the threat actors have access to. I'm right with you there. It's a very interesting discussion on the right way to approach that. But here's a fun question for you. Since you're talking about leveraging Claude and AI and all these findings and how it's like 100 times Xing your efficiency, we also know that tokens can become very expensive. So I'm just curious, are you able to leverage majority of your work within like a max account with Claude? Are you able to leverage it within a pro account, or
multiple
are you
max
paying
accounts?
Yeah, what is your average? What is your spend on AI to accomplish this in general?
I don't spend that much. Like you, exactly what you mentioned, right? I just have like multiple of these accounts, and not just for this, like even ChatGPT, like other like platforms. In total doesn't cost that much. Maybe I'm spending like max like 1.2K per month, but the bounties like pay for it anyways. So as long as I find one bounty, it's all paid for.
Yeah.
If I need a scale, I can just get another one.
It's so much more efficient using those subscriptions, right? There's a tool that I use, and it tells you the cost. I'll like run it against like an open source project for vulns. It tells you the cost, and it's used like 5% of my 5-hour window, and it says it's cost like $600 or something. I'm like, it definitely didn't cost me that much.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, yeah. The subsidization is crazy. Like I mean, the amount of compute they're paying for. I mean, they're definitely at a loss here. Like in terms of us using it as power users, they're not making money from us. Definitely. In the end, I guess it's like a marketing thing for them. They let us use it, and in the end, enterprise uses it. When enterprise uses it, they pay the full like API billing cost. So we get a subsidization, but they don't.
The other thing I've thought about that with the subsidization as well, I mean, it's obviously desirable to get it as more like, to get it into the market and stuff like that, but they also want data, right? Like if they don't have researchers, if they don't have like people of all different fields using their AI, they're not actually getting the data to improve it. So it's kind of like, I wonder, are we nearly being subsidized as well? Maybe not like fully, but maybe that's kind of part of the reason as well, is we're being subsidized because they need our input as well. You know what I mean? They're kind of
data's the new gold. We're in an era where
it's been for a while, maybe. Yeah,
maybe
so
more than ever.
Yeah. Like Cursor's like able to offer that free service, and it's like so much data to gather from all the different users that are using it, and that's like they're one of the biggest things that they have, right? So, and that allows them to then train whatever they want with this data, because it's valuable. Think about it. Like we're telling Claude, whenever Claude does something wrong, we're telling it what to do right. So
exactly. It's like capture, right? It's like doing all the traffic lights and the cars and stuff. It's like, you're really doing it for machine learning and for them to improve the self-driving cars and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, hey, this has been a fantastic conversation and a really awesome deep dive into these findings. Brutecat, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day to join us and walk us through some of these. So I find it super valuable. I'm assuming that our viewers will as well. Any last thoughts or comments before we wrap this up?
I think we pretty much covered everything. I just think that, okay, if you want to hunt for Google, I would really recommend reading that blog post. Essentially, I've outlined literally every technique in the book, and it has so many example bugs. You can look at what the type of bugs are being found in Google, right? There's so much you can find there. And if you, and also like the same like learnings can be applied outside of Google, I'm sure, like for at least for the API wise. So sure, like even though I use like old technology like MCP there, you can still take the same learnings and apply them to like nowadays. Like we can make a CLI to do the same thing. It doesn't have to be an MCP server. So and there's so much useful stuff there, especially the Google domain knowledge. It took me like months to figure out this knowledge. So I put it all up there, so you can just figure out everything and do it yourself. Yeah, and
that's really nice.
But if you want. Yeah.
I was just going to say the bug bounty scene as well. I'm seeing a lot of people saying like they don't want to share like, the learnings anymore. They don't want to share research because it's going to go to AI. So it's really nice to see somebody still like contributing to the research community as well. And we'll link your blog in the video. And also you're doing some consulting as well, right? So this AI system that you use for hacking Google, I take it people can kind of pay you to apply it to their own network, their own website.
Yeah, exactly. So pretty much, okay, I've taken this whole AI I did for Google and I've actually applied this in open source. And I found so many like 0 days in open source. Like I could take, for example, like I could like for Git TI, it's used for like, okay, so for example, Zig programming language. Zig programming language is hosted on like, for I think Git TI or something. But I had some like unauthenticated, like I could arbitrarily push like any commits I want. So I could take over the whole thing. That was very impactful. Another bug was like, basically I looked at all these like major open source projects. They all have like over 200K stars. I was able to find like 0 days left and right. And I reported all of them. I'm able to find these kind of bugs by using the same harness and I've applied them to open source. So, but I can use that and apply it to your own company and scan the source code. And I'm sure I can find like tons of bugs and also my own input from my experience with bug bounty, right? I can definitely I can find like tons of bugs that other like generic scanners wouldn't find.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing that beats experience, right? And you clearly have the experience and knowledge, and it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. And I will definitely link in the show notes all the blogs that we talked through and your new research, and hopefully maybe we'll do this again sometime.
I'm sure it won't be long before Brutecat's got more Google bugs to talk about.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on his research as we move through the podcast. All right, well, thanks everybody, and I think that's a wrap.